What if love wasn't about connection, but control? What if care became justification? What if obsession wore the mask of devotion? Joe Goldberg is not a killer driven by rage. He is not chaos incarnate. He is calm, articulate, thoughtful, and terrifyingly sincere. Joe believes love grants authority. And once love becomes authority, violence becomes acceptable. This is episode 21, The Philosophy of Joe Goldberg, from you. This is Beyond the Villain, where we unmask evil, one story at a time. Joe Goldberg is not born violent. He is born unfinished. Raised in instability, Joe grows up without a consistent sense of safety, attachment, or trust. His childhood is defined not by affection, but by exposure, to abandonment, to emotional neglect, and to violence framed as protection. Joe learns early that people leave. And more importantly, he learns why they leave. Unpredictability. Adults lie. Caretakers disappear. Love is conditional, fragile, temporary. This teaches Joe a lesson that becomes foundational to his psychology. If you want love to stay, you must control the conditions that allow it to exist. Books become Joe's refuge, not as fantasy, but as structure. Stories follow rules. Characters behave according to patterns. Narratives reward devotion. Unlike people, books make sense. Joe does not develop a healthy inner world. He develops an observational one. He watches. He studies. He learns how people present themselves versus who they really are. By adulthood, Joe is not seeking mutual intimacy. He is seeking predictability wrapped in affection. Joe's pattern of obsession does not begin with violence. It begins with attention. He notices small details. He listens closely. He remembers things others forget. At first, this appears romantic. But Joe does not use attention to connect. He uses it to replace connection. Instead of engaging openly, he observes secretly. Instead of communicating, he monitors. Instead of trusting, he verifies. The turning point occurs the moment Joe decides that knowing someone better than they know themselves gives him moral authority over them. From that moment forward, Joe is no longer a participant in relationships. He is their curator. Anyone who contradicts his internal narrative becomes a threat. Not to him, but to love itself. Joe's violence is never impulsive. It is deliberate, framed as necessity. Each escalation follows the same internal logic. This person is hurting you. They don't understand you like I do. Removing them protects what we have. Joe never experiences himself as the aggressor. He experiences himself as the only responsible adult in the room. This is why Joe does not spiral into chaos after killing. He becomes calmer. Because in his mind, he has restored order. Joe's goal is not dominance. It is emotional certainty. He wants love without risk, connection without vulnerability, intimacy without autonomy. Joe cannot tolerate the idea that someone might leave him for reasons he cannot control. So he removes choice entirely. Ironically, Joe believes this sincerely. Joe does not see himself as immoral. He sees himself as burdened. He believes he carries guilt so others don't have to. That he commits sins so love can survive. Joe's self-concept is not, "I am bad." It is, "I am necessary." Joe Goldberg represents a uniquely modern philosophy of evil. Emotional intention overrides ethical consent. 1. Love as moral authority. Joe believes that love grants the right to decide. If he loves deeply enough, he believes, he understands better. He sees clearer. He deserves control. This transforms love from a bond into a hierarchy. This belief echoes a dangerous ethical fallacy, that good intentions excuse harmful outcomes. Joe does not ask permission, because permission introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty terrifies him. 2. Surveillance as intimacy. Joe confuses knowledge with closeness. He tracks routines, reads private messages, anticipates reactions. To Joe, intimacy is not mutual vulnerability. It is informational dominance. True intimacy requires risk. Joe replaces risk with surveillance. And surveillance always creates power imbalance. Joe doesn't want to be known. He wants to know first. 3. The savior narrative. Joe casts himself as a protector against a hostile world. Others are careless, others are selfish. Others don't love correctly. Joe believes his extremism is evidence of sincerity. This mirrors authoritarian logic on a personal scale. Order justifies force, stability justifies coercion, love justifies control. Joe is not a tyrant of nations. He is a tyrant of intimacy. The counter-philosophy to Joe Goldberg is devastatingly simple. Love without consent is not love. Ethical philosophy places autonomy at the center of moral action. No intention, no matter how pure, overrides another person's right to choose. Joe's philosophy collapses under this principle. Care without consent is possession. Where Joe prioritizes outcomes, moral ethics prioritize boundaries. Where Joe sees interference as protection, ethics see it as violation. Joe's worldview cannot survive mutuality, because mutuality requires surrendering control. Joe forces us to examine how often obsession is normalized. Jealousy is romanticized. Monitoring is excused. Control is reframed as devotion. Joe is not exceptional. He is the logical endpoint of narratives that equate intensity with sincerity. The lesson here is not about rejecting love. It is about recognizing when love becomes entitlement. Healthy love allows freedom. Unhealthy love fears it. Love is not ownership. Is Joe Goldberg evil? Or is he what happens when emotional entitlement goes unchecked? Joe never accepts rejection, never respects autonomy, never recognizes another person's inner world as sovereign. And yet, he experiences himself as wounded, misunderstood, and righteous. This raises a terrifying moral question. Can someone commit evil while sincerely believing they are loving? Joe demonstrates how violence does not require hatred. It only requires certainty. When someone believes they know what's best, they stop listening. And when they stop listening, they stop seeing others as human. Joe's danger lies not in his anger, but in his conviction. Joe Goldberg is terrifying because he believes in love. But his love has no room for choice, autonomy, or resistance. He reminds us that love, when stripped of boundaries, becomes tyranny. And that the most dangerous villains are not those who hate, but those who believe they care more than anyone else. So let me ask you, is Joe Goldberg a romantic, or proof that love without limits becomes violence? Let me know your thoughts below. This has been Beyond the Villain, where we unmask evil, one story at a time.